If you are fighting what you're feeling, all you're doing is adding more fuel and more fighting. But when you say to yourself, we call it tapping because you're pressing this gentle rhythm on this acupressure point. Tapping is this beautiful combination of using these ancient Chinese acupressure points with modern psychology.
In this conversation, we're diving into what tapping actually is, why it works, and how you can use it to navigate one of the most emotionally charged times of the year, the holidays. Ortner is the co-founder of The Tapping Solution, a best-selling author, speaker, and host of the Tapping Solution podcast.
I release any guilt and acknowledge my growth. So this is the image for those who are watching the video.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Game Changer Podcast. My name is Michelle Dutro. I am your host, and I am joined today with a very long time old friend, Jessica Ortner. You probably know her from the Tapping Solution. I'm going to read it anyway, but of all the people that I should not be reading an introduction for, it is Miss Jessica Ortner, that you may also know her from episode 33. That would be in February. Get a load of this, Jess. February 1st, 2016. Jess was on the show nearly 10 years ago. So we're gonna have all kinds of catch-ups, not only with Jessica, but with the Tapping Solution and how far they have come in 10 plus years, which I know is phenomenal. That said, I'll give you the personal side, but here's the professional side. Today's guest has helped millions of people around the world calm their nervous systems, release emotional stress, and reclaim their peace, one tap at a time. Jessica Ortner is the co-founder of The Tapping Solution, a best-selling author, speaker, and host of the Tapping Solution podcast. Through her books, app, and workshops, she's made this powerful stress relief tool accessible to anyone, anywhere, from overwhelmed parents and entrepreneurs to trauma survivors and busy professionals. In this conversation, we're diving into what tapping actually is, why it works, and how you can use it to navigate one of the most emotionally charged times of the year, the holidays, which this is airing Thanksgiving week if you're catching this in real time, so look out for the fun ahead. We'll also explore her brand new tapping card deck, the inspiration behind it, and what is next for the Tapping Solution. Before we dive into all of that, I said I'm going to talk about the personal side. So Jess and I met, I don't remember how long ago this was, clearly more than 10 years ago, on a Hay House writers and speakers cruise, and I think I showed up at their table. That everybody was assigned groups of dining tables, and I didn't care for mine, so I think I just joined hers, and then that was just.
And then it was whoop.
Yeah,
we were together the entire time.
The entire time.
I wouldn't let you out of my sights.
We went.
I was like, yep, that's my girl.
I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking about the funny things from that trip. One of which was, do you remember going stingray petting? We were standing in the water with stingrays, and I don't know what we were supposed to be doing with them, but what an odd thing.
You're right. It was
like,
yeah.
oh,
We
look
were
at
like,
pet them as they go by.
With, trying to hold them. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, those little slimy things. Yep, that's what we did together when we first met.
That was a very weird thing. But yes, Inseparable have spent lots of hours talking about life and all of its things. And since then, Jess has gotten married and has 2 babies, now 4 and 7, is back in Connecticut after a little short stint here in California. So all of that is absolutely amazing and wonderful. Just before we dive in, what did I leave out about you personally or professionally that people should know about before we get going?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that people should know that when we met, we spent a lot of time deep talk and giggling. A lot of soul searching and but a lot of giggles too. So I hope that this is an episode where people learn a lot and then also have some fun, and that what we learned with tapping is to create some more of that space for joy to come in during the holiday season.
Agreed. I think that is a perfect segue into what we're talking about in tapping. For those of you that may not know, so I have a retreat center. Half of my time is on, I have a nonprofit that is on the PTSD side for females, veterans and first responders. And of the 3 pillars that are taught here, tapping is one of them. So I have been a big supporter and proponent of Jessica and the Tapping Solutions work for well more than a decade, and can attest, as we're going to hear from Jessica, how quickly it works which is mind-boggling to people that you can be at from a 0 to 10, 10 being the most amount of stress, and in being at an absolute 10, some people would say a 15, and in short order, being at a 3 and feeling that they can breathe. And I'm not getting ahead of ourselves here, and I'm certainly not going to tell you how tapping works, but that all of a sudden that thing that has so much power over us, it's still there. It just doesn't control us and claim us anymore, which is truly the beauty of tapping. That said, as I got way ahead of it, Jessica, for those folks that don't know or maybe have kind of heard of or have never heard about it at all, just define for us, what is tapping, who is it for, and how does it work?
Great. So it's this amazing dance form where you put on tap shoes and just kidding.
And we're gonna demonstrate
Um,
it. And if you don't
no.
catch it here, you're gonna catch us on TikTok in about an hour. It's gonna be great.
um, so it's called tapping because what we're using our fingertips to stimulate these acupressure points that we have on our face and our body. So we call it tapping because you're pressing this gentle rhythm on this acupressure point. Tapping is this beautiful combination of using these ancient Chinese acupressure points with modern psychology. It came about with a psychologist named Dr. Roger Callahan, who had a woman who had a awful water phobia that was in the pit of her stomach. And he was doing conventional therapy with her for a year and nothing was really moving. And she would always say the same thing. It starts in the pit of my stomach. It starts in the pit of my stomach. And so he found the meridian point for that sensation in the pit of the stomach. And he had her start tapping on the side of the eye. And by using what he knew as a therapist and combining this acupressure points, she had this incredible breakthrough. And that's when things began to evolve, where we started going, okay, well, there's thousands of years of research around these meridian systems around acupressure. How can we combine this body technique with modern psychology? So with tapping, the traditional form, it's also known as EFT, emotional freedom techniques. You give yourself a moment to bring up the stress that's creating the anxiety in our body. We are not feeling anxiety just in our head with a thought. We feel it in our body. And so when we have a thought that creates physical anxiety and we just tell ourselves, well, I shouldn't think that way. I know better. I shouldn't let them get to me. You're using your mind to try to communicate with your body that's having a response. And those words are not able to sink in, right? It's like you use a positive affirmation or you try to talk yourself out of it and you just kind of feel like you're lying to yourself. What tapping does is you're unlocking the thought, the memory that's creating that physical response while tapping on points. And that sends a calming signal to your brain, to the amygdala that's firing off that fight or flight response. And it's your body communicating with your brain saying, hey, right now I'm listening to a podcast. I'm safe. Right now, I got to go to a dinner. I'm safe. And suddenly you're able to get back in your body, back in the moment. And really, it's just been, we talked a little bit before we started recording, is that when we met, there was some research, but really it's exploded in the last 5 years of our understanding about why this works, which I can go into. But that is like kind of the basis of tapping. You're stimulating acupressure points when you're feeling stress, sending a calming signal to your brain, and it allows your body and your mind to relax.
So, would you say when we're talking about when you're feeling stress, that it is the range of anything from real time, I feel like I'm having a panic attack, I just feel like I can't control myself, all the way to when I think about this thing that happened, it's overwhelming. It just floods me, to include, it's the holiday season now, and I'm going to this dinner or I'm going to this event, and I know by, math, half of the people there are going to feel differently than I do. So whether it's real time, past tense, future tense, how does tapping help?
Yeah. So if it's something in the future, it's usually because there's something in the past. If there's anxiety in the future, it's really being usually fueled by something that's already happened. Whether that's something that we heard on TV that triggered us or a past discussion that's really difficult. Tapping does a few things, and there's a few ways that we can approach this. But one of the things that's interesting is memory reconsolidation. And one of the things that neuroscientists have realized is that the way we look at memory has really changed. Back in the day, scientists thought you have a memory and that's it. It's like cement. Something happened, it happened, and then you move on. You can't change it. Memory reconsolidation, one of the things that researchers realized is that when you unlock a memory, when you open it, you then become flooded with that feeling. Right. So you have a memory and suddenly you feel that anxiety in the moment. It's not happening in the moment, but your body doesn't know that. The memory is activated and it's almost like we're opening up a file, right? And in that moment, we have the option to edit that file or save it the way it is. And most of the time, we are saving that file again and again, opening it, feeling triggered, flooded with cortisol, the stress hormone, feeling anxious, fight or flight, save again. Okay, back again, triggered, opened again, same anxiety. What we're doing with tapping is we're opening that file and we're going, okay, wait, let me communicate with my body. And we begin to tap on these points while thinking about that feeling, while thinking about that memory. And as our body becomes more calm, it's like we're able to edit that file. So then once we close it, it closes without that same charge. The memory is still there, still might be uncomfortable, not a great thing that happened, but the intensity of the charge is not there. So we can, in those moments, that's when we can have that post-traumatic growth. That's when we can learn something, take something away, feel like we have survived and stronger. We don't feel like a victim of the event because we've saved it in a way that we can take the lesson without holding on to the pain.
And talk about one of the things that I think is the most profound thing with tapping, because I think I just interviewed a psychiatrist a couple hours ago, and we were talking about this exact thing, is the act of accepting what is. Even
Yeah.
though,
Yes.
just accepting, because so much of what we push up against is the guilt that we feel or the shame or the what I feel this and I shouldn't, and it makes me a bad
Hmm.
person, and then whatever that thing is now tenfold, because now we have the thing, and then we have our judgment against ourselves for feeling that way about the thing. So talk about the very first setup with accepting whatever is showing up.
Yeah. So this is what I mean. We're using this ancient technique, this ancient system of these acupressure points. But what we're doing is we're combining modern psychology. And what we're realizing is that the pushing through, you can't hate yourself happy is really what it is. You can't criticize yourself forward. And the challenge is that so many of us are born in families or in environments where we feel like, well, if I just accept myself, then things won't change. And it means I'm not self aware. And it means basically I'm a loser. Why would I accept myself when I know I deserve better, when I don't want to live like this? But to your point, what we're doing is the judgment is like piling on. And that is when we get really incredibly stuck. Accepting yourself is incredibly freeing because what you're doing is you're allowing yourself to process the emotion. If you are fighting what you're feeling, all you're doing is adding more fuel and more fighting. But when you say to yourself, I accept this is how I feel, it's like, here's an easy way to think about it. Think about a child. Sometimes it's harder when we're thinking about ourselves, but think about a child who's having a really hard time. And you're like, listen, kid, get it together. You are better than this. You are old enough to have this figured out right now. Get it together. Okay. Or, hey, that was really hard. I get you're upset. I see you. I hear you. And I think we can get through this. What kid is going to behave better? And it's obviously the child who has that moment of acceptance. It's so hard for us to do that for ourselves, which is actually why I love tapping. Because the first time I had to say, I love and accept myself, Michelle, I started crying. I couldn't, I was so triggered by the concept that it was like the words could not come out of my mouth because I spent so many years feeling like if I could only be different, my life would be better. If I could only change. And that acceptance was so difficult. But when you're stimulating these points and you're tapping and you're soothing your body, it's so much easier to open up to these concepts that for most of us are incredibly foreign. And it's a really gentle way to go in that direction where ultimately that's where we get results. And the really tricky thing about this is that the self-judgment that we have, it works for a second. So we've all been in a position where we're mad at ourselves. We told ourselves, I'm not going to be triggered by that uncle again. And then suddenly we are. And we're like, oh, why? You tell yourself, I'm going to be better with money. You make a bad financial decision. I'm going to start eating better. You make a bad food choice. The criticism comes on. And what happens for a short time is it works. This is what's tricky. We start the diet. We buy some book about finances. We decide to do something different, but it's coming from this place of like anxiety and stress. And so there we are. And we're like, okay, this is the time. I'm going to be better. I'm going to be better. But we're like tense and we're stressed and we're overwhelmed and we're climbing up this mountain. And then all of a sudden, we're just so exhausted and something happens and we just want to dive into the refrigerator. And we are like, oh, I was doing so well on my diet. Why am I here again? Okay, let me start the cycle. Ooh, I got it. I can do it. Climbing up that mountain. And instead, realizing that for anything to be sustainable, it has to feel natural and pleasurable. It needs to feel easy. If being kind to your uncle feels hard, there will be a moment when you're tired or 2 drinks in that you just snap. We have to find a way to lower our stress, to calm our bodies so we can think clearly. So that part of our brain, the amygdala, that fight or flight is not firing off. Instead, we can use our prefrontal cortex and we can strategize. We can think clearly. We can set ourselves up for success by making it easier instead of feeling like it has to be a struggle and we have to force our way to change.
So if someone's listening right now and they're thinking, okay, I'm going to give this thing a shot because I resonate with everything that you're saying, and Thanksgiving is a few days away, and I've got to figure out a different plan than whatever I tried last year, but I don't have the time, it's Thanksgiving, to go see a therapist. Talk about the app. Talk about what you can do on your own, that you're not having to go book time in some therapist's office to go work through this. How does somebody work on their own if they're not even sure exactly what they're feeling? How much does or doesn't that matter? And how does the app help in your own space, in your own home, on your own?
Yeah. So, well, we created the app because people would have an experience with a therapist using tapping or following along with me or on their own. And they'd come to us and they'd be like, I had the most unbelievable experience with tapping. I had this breakthrough. And we'd be like, amazing. When was that? And they'd be like, 5 years ago. You'd be like, what? Well, maybe you should keep doing it if you had that breakthrough. And we found that people needed the extra support. And so we created this app that has hundreds of different tapping meditations where you can hone in on like what the challenge is. And one of our most popular ones is one that's just called releasing anxiety. And it's under 9 minutes. And the data around this is unbelievable. There's been millions of plays on this app, and the average reduction in anxiety is 41% in just 9 minutes. Now, going down 41% is the difference between snapping at your uncle and being able to shift directions and focusing on something else. And so just the act of tapping on anxiety before something is really powerful. You can also look up family gathering, and we have a tapping meditation for just that, for just getting ready for a family gathering. But the way that you need to look at it is like, think about this cup. We only have enough room for this cup. And like, suddenly, we're just feeling really, really stressed and we haven't dealt with it. And the water is rising and it's on the top of the cup. And then suddenly your uncle says that one thing. It's like a drop, it's like a passing comment. But the cup is already so full that you can't help but just the water flows over and you burst because the cup was so full. But can we lower that before we go into that interaction? Can we say, I need a new set point. I can't walk into this living room feeling this tension and stress. I'm going to lower the set point of how I feel. I'm going to feel more relaxed so that if I get triggered by something, sure, maybe it goes up a little bit, but it's not overflowing. It's something I can completely handle, and it's something that I can navigate.
So I have painted up above in the dining room here at the retreat center the words that say, be responsible for the energy you show up with. I think tapping to me is one of the best ways to be responsible for ourselves, to take responsibility of well, I'm just going to see what happens. I'm just showing up and we'll see how the dice roll. And that's incredibly irresponsible. And while we can't change what somebody else is going to do or say, we certainly have every capacity and ability to take control over how we respond to whatever that situation is. So I hope that everybody is listening to this. Oddly enough, just 2 days ago, I had someone here and they were talking about a family member that's dealing with extreme anxiety. And it was 2 seconds in, and I said, "Well, she needs to get the tapping app. Just tell her to get the tapping app."
Thank you.
That's just the answer. I mean, that's usually what I say to most people for things because it works. So on this thing of because it works, and you alluded to a couple of times how much change has changed in the last 10 years, and nothing has changed within tapping. What has changed is the science has proven how and why tapping actually works. So, what are some key significant things that maybe are um, new scientific results or proofs that say this is what's going on and this is exactly why it's worse. So we're so far from this being airy fairy. This is not
Yeah.
something that you see in some body, mind, spirit expo. Not that there's anything wrong with those because there's not, but this truly is science-backed data now and it works. So what are a couple of key things that have come out in the last handful of years that you can share?
Yeah, I think the biggest study, so there has been 300 published studies, but there's two studies which I will say I find to be the most impressive and that I cite the most. One is by a woman, Dr. Peta Stapleton, down in Australia at Bond University, and she did a study. It was actually she recreated a study. The study already happened with somebody else, but she's like, I'm going to do this study myself. I'm going to really see if tapping lowers cortisol, the stress hormone. We all need a little bit of cortisol to wake up. It's a regular hormone, but when we are feeling stressed, we have an overproduction of cortisol, and that leads to a lot of health challenges. It leads to holding excess weight in our bellies. It can impact our sleep. And cortisol is really easy to measure because we can measure it with our saliva. Cortisol before, cortisol after. And so in this study, she had three groups. She had one group that was doing tapping, one group that was reading about mindfulness. And then the third group was just simply resting, which is also stress relief, just relaxing. It's incredible. The tapping group beat the two other groups significantly. The drop in cortisol, I think the other groups had, I should know this off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it was like 17%. The tapping group had 42% decrease in cortisol in an hour. So it's measurable. So not only are people saying, wow, I feel less stress, but you measure their cortisol with their saliva and it goes significantly down. So I think that was a huge one because stress and cortisol impacts every aspect. And people wonder, well, how do you have an app that has tapping for pain relief, but then you also have tapping for finance and abundance because stress impacts everything. Stress impacts our ability to make smart financial decisions and navigate this economy. Stress impacts pain relief and our ability for the tension and for our muscles to begin to relax. Stress impacts every aspect of our life, and this study shows that it reduces stress. The other one that I find so fascinating, and this is also again by Dr. Peta Stapleton, she specializes in eating disorders, whether that's anorexia or binge eating. And in this study, she studied women who were all considered to be obese, clinically obese, and they had really hard time with cravings. I mean, that was just a horrible time. And if anyone suffered with cravings, it is feels like an addiction. It feels like something that is in your body. It's not just in your head. Cravings can feel all consuming. And she took these women who started tapping, and what she did first is she put them in an fMRI machine, and she scanned their brains while showing them photos of different foods. And when she showed them foods that triggered the cravings, you could see their brain begin to light up, just like, oh, I want that. The craving has started. And she had them begin to tap on the cravings. So being able to think about the food, but now feeling relaxed and not triggered by that idea for food. Then she put them in an MRI scan again. And there was the areas of the brain that were lighting up were no longer lighting up. This was after 4 weeks they were doing tapping. And so not only were the women saying, hey, I don't have these cravings anymore. I feel a lot more relaxed, a lot more in control. And that's the key. I feel in control. A lot of us know what we should be doing, but we don't feel in control of our own behaviors. They felt in control, but not only were they saying the craving was down, but you could see the changes in their brain in the fMRI machine.
So what I love about this is which there's nothing wrong with the placebo effect, and that is its own thing because what you believe wholeheartedly to be true will be. But this is
Yes.
science. I mean, fMRI, functional MRI is real. You're seeing that really happening, and cortisol is a real lab test. That's measurable. So this makes this above and beyond. Well, maybe it's just because this is what I believe is happening. Well, let's
Right.
not discount that though. By the way, all of that matters. So this is great, and for people that are thinking, "Okay, now I'm really convinced. Now science is on the side here," and there's nobody that shouldn't wanna reduce cortisol for all of the reasons, let alone let's talk about the impact on your immune system and all disease that is rooted somewhere in some way, shape, or form with, levels of stress. This is something that we all need to control, and it is within our control. So
Yes.
this is a great way to get there. While we're talking about great ways to get there, I would be very remiss. I'm holding this amazing deck of cards I'm getting ready to show everybody. So while we're chatting
Yay!
about all the things that someone can do to help, we've talked about the app. We're going to talk obviously about the website in a second and the books that you have out. Jessica, how many have you authored?
2.
Two.
With my third is coming up.
Third is coming up. Tell us about the two.
So the first book is The Tapping Solution for Weight Loss and Body Confidence. And you know that from when you met me, like I had such an obsession with my weight and feeling like if I could just get cravings and binge eating under control, my whole life would be better. And I really thought the key of that was just pushing and struggling and trying to change. And it wasn't until I started to look at the emotional aspects that were leading to these behaviors, not only the behaviors, but also the way that I viewed myself, the way I viewed my relationship with my body. That's when everything really changed and change became sustainable.
Which,
So,
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that really came to light when you actually had to write that book.
yes, yes, totally. Well, what's interesting is like a lot of those things happen, but then when you have to start teaching it, you go to such a deeper level
Right.
to be like,
Oh,
"Ooh, okay. Is this
this
so,
is real.
you know, this is really real." And it was really interesting having kids. I wrote the book before kids. So it
Right.
was very interesting having kids and then suddenly like gaining 50 pounds and having a 10-pound baby and my body changing and then being like waiting for the shoe to drop, being like, am I going to go back to these old behaviors and not? And realizing like I was able to get to my pre-baby weight like without the stress,
Right.
didn't have to do it right away. Like I just moved at my own pace. Life felt easier. I got there. Like my relationship with my body just so transformed and it just shows that like these results last. And also if something comes up when you get triggered, because it does, like we heal in layers,
Right.
right? And I think that's an important thing to bring up because I think someone has a big breakthrough and then they do a lot of work on their relationship with their mother and they think like I'm so much better now. And then they do go to Thanksgiving and they feel really good. And then something happens and they feel triggered and they're like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to be this way. Oh, I'm back there." But like, no, you're not. It's a different level. As we begin to evolve, we get triggered in different ways. It's probably not so intense. You can move through it faster. You have the tools like tapping and all the other amazing things that you learn here to be able to support you through it. But I think the concept, and I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but I feel like lately I've been thinking a lot about this and I think it's really important. I think the concept of healing and growing, there's so much pressure to do it perfectly and that it has to be linear, that it kind of robs us of the beauty of being human and the compassion of allowing ourselves a moment to be triggered and not be so judgmental about it and to move through it faster. And when you do that, it just begins to happen less. But this idea that I will do enough self development to suddenly reach this utopic moment when nothing bothers me and I have 100% belief in myself, I think is a very dangerous idea. And I think the way that we should start to measure our success is your belief stronger than your doubt? That's it. Can you tap enough to lower the intensity so you have room to start to, can you weed before you plant the seed and just create enough space to grow something new? Doesn't mean you never have any weeds. Doesn't mean you're done weeding. Like it's part of the process. But can we find a way to make this a more pleasurable, beautiful, spiritual experience so that life doesn't always feel like it knocks us down when it doesn't go as planned?
And when we have those reactions, I talk a lot about the word grace, that you show yourself some
Mhm.
grace of you're human, and as long
Totally.
as and even bringing awareness to, "Oh, this is starting to feel bad again, but I know what to do and I know how to handle it." That's
Mhm.
growth, and, again, we're human, things are gonna come up. If we're not, then we're not evolving, we're not growing, we're not being self-aware enough to know how we're responding and growing in these different situations. That's one book. You said there were 2.
Yeah. And then, the journey of weight loss taught me a lot about life because I'm talking here about how pressure doesn't help. You can't hate yourself happy. You can't criticize yourself thin. You can't shame yourself to more money. And those things that I had to learn the hard way when it came to my relationship with my body, I realized translate in so many different areas of your life, whether it's finance or relationship. That idea of how can I become more compassionate and how can I figure out the triggers that need to be healed for me to move forward. And so the next book was called The Tapping Solution to Create Lasting Change. So, how do we stop the cycle of making some progress and going back, making some progress and going back by using the tapping? So, that was the second book.
Perfect. And now, which, by the way, there's another great concept because that I think that's the complaint of most people when they go to a seminar. Like example, because it's the one most people probably refer to as a Tony Robbins seminar, is it's the most amazing 3 or 4 days, however long you're there for, ever. Then you come back and it's the most amazing thing ever. And for a week, everything is great. And for a month, I'm doing this and I've got my daily plan. And then 6 months goes by and here we are. And so this thing about lasting change is really a key critical component because it's ongoing daily work. A 3-day seminar is not
Mhm.
gonna change your life if you're not in your life every day saying, "How am I showing up today? What's my
Yes.
intention, and how can I get to the best version of myself today?" Tony Robbins himself, as you personally know, recommits every single day with his morning routine. He doesn't take any of that for happenstance going, "I'm Tony Robbins, I got this figured out. I don't need a morning routine." He's smart enough to know, yes, he does. And every day is a new day to say, I'm recommitting to being the best version of myself, showing myself some grace if I slip up, and knowing that tomorrow's another day to try again. So, with our new day of whatever it is that we're doing, your newest thing that you have out is this the cover? These cards. Oh, you got a
I
full
have it on my
circle.
desk because I pick like 5 cards a day. I love them.
Perfect. So do I. I love them. Let's talk about look at this one. Today I choose joy. Do you see that? How does that not make you happy? Most certainly. That's right there. That is, boy, oh boy, that is a happy card. Let's talk about the inspiration of this card deck. How did this come
Yes.
about? And the artwork and the intention behind it. Because I truly didn't know when I ordered this, I didn't realize how amazing this actually was and that it is a tapping formula for every one of these. And here's let me just I'm going off on a tangent myself. So not only on a typical Oracle deck of cards, you could just pick one and say that's my card of the day, like you just did, or you're feeling a thing. You can just scroll through here and go, oh my goodness, that this right here, this one is calling to me. And instantly you
Yes.
have a little tapping solution on the back of it to work through. So let's back up. What was the inspiration behind this? And walk us through the evolution of this particular card deck.
Yeah, thank you. I found my first card deck when I was maybe 14, 15. It was like angels, it was positive, it was beautiful. I'd go to sleepovers and they'd be like, "Oh, here Jess comes with her deck." And they were just moments of inspiration. And I feel like the universe, God is always speaking to us, whether it's seeing that cardinal and thinking of a grandmother or finding that feather. I do believe that life is so much more magical when we are open to the signs and for communicating with something that's higher than ourselves. And so I've always loved the concept of cards. And I wanted to create something that was like when you are just lost or stuck, or even it's like the middle of the day and you need to pick me up, what is something that is like a message that you can get that can transform your day? That not only do you get that message and it's amazing how it can resonate with you, but also to be able to flip the card over and just one round, less than a minute, settle your energy, take a deep breath. This card deck actually started in the app where you can scroll through in the app and pick a card and flip it. And my husband he's a software engineer. He's the software engineer. So he was designing this and he said to me, do you want to make it so that when someone picks a card, they don't get that card again? And you go through the deck, like he's just thinking logically. And I go, no, we got to leave room for God in this app. Like, absolutely not. If they pick the card 3 times, it's because they need the card 3 times. And that's how I view the world. And the amount of people who've reached out to be like, wow, I got exactly what I needed in that moment. And then some of them too are like, there's one card that's called like, I accept others as they are. And I call that good medicine. Do we like taking medicine? Most of us don't. But sometimes we need to hear, let's accept others as they are. But instead of just taking the concept, let's tap through it. Let's have an experience. And it was always just a dream of mine to create this card deck. And I think it's probably the most fulfilling thing that I've ever made. It is the thing that I am the most proud of and that I use every single day.
Wow, no kidding. Well, and like you said, you started this when you were so young. You know what's funny when you were talking? It made me think, getting slightly distracted and then telling myself, Michelle, be present. Jessica's talking. Pay attention to what she's saying. Is this is a way personal sidebar. It is so great for me to see you now as a mom because of if there was any one it's 2 words, but I was like thinking in my mind one word as you were talking. And probably because you're talking about this card deck. You more than anyone else I know on the planet, if I were to pick one word that describes Jessica Ortner, it's magic and awe. You have the most
Oh,
childlike
Michelle.
spirit of anyone I know. And to think of somebody with the most profound childlike, which is why also you said, hey, let's learn something, but let's have fun as well, because that's what a child would want to do. You have such a childlike magic and awe spirit that I just can't imagine. I wish your kids were here. Play this for your kids. Kids, listen to this right here. You are so lucky to have the
Oh,
mom that you have, that your presence, it's a very difficult thing. I talk about it a lot, that we've got to lose our inner critic and our judgmentalness and absorb a little more awe and a little more magic in our life and not be so jaded around everything. Is that it's one thing to teach it or talk about it. It's another thing when you show up and it's just truly who you are. That is truly who you are. It's
oh,
wonderful
Michelle, that means so much.
to be
Thank
around you again.
you.
Oh, it's true. Like, just go back and watch you talking about this card deck, and it's just what you embody, which comes through in this, by the way. You have to get, look at that power. You have to get this card deck. Your energy really does emit through this card deck, and it is as beautiful as it is fun, as it is educational, which is certainly not every card deck. And like you, I have 100 sitting behind me, so I'm an authority to be able to make that comment.
Thank
So, hey,
you know what? I have something to show you that I wasn't planning on showing you,
uh-oh.
but I have it in my drawer because you talk about kids. And I don't know if you can see this. We have a
Kids and
kids confidence
confidence.
deck, easy to open with a magnet. This is literally like I'm hoping to get these before Christmas. Um but they'll definitely be done right after Christmas, and it's the same. I made these like really for my kids, and
So
they
what'd they
have
tell you?
different
What'd they tell you? What'd
affirmations
they tell you?
for the kids.
What'd they
So,
tell you? Well, they not a
yes,
better person on the planet. There's just not a better person on the planet than you to have made that, because it's your truth, it's your spirit, it's your energy, it's who you are. That is
thank you.
fantastic. So, okay, so All right. So, well, now, I mean, holy cow, look at the time. So, with that, it is kind of a good segue for anybody that wants to know when is this coming out? You kind of alluded to a new book that's coming out next year. All of the things tapping solution and Jessica Ortner related. Where does someone go? How do they follow you? How do they make sure they don't miss that? Especially, I will get this children's. I'm going to give it to my daughters, Madison and Hallie. How does somebody know about everything that you have coming up so that they don't miss a thing?
Oh, thank you, Michelle. You can follow me at the tapping solution on Instagram, or the best thing to do really is just download the app because it is a free download. You can do a 14-day free trial, unlock everything, cancel it if you don't feel like it's fitting you. But try the 14-day free trial. If you don't even want to do that, you can just even get in the app, and we have so many free resources. That releasing anxiety tapping meditation I spoke to you about, that's so powerful, is always free. We do have it for those who are watching who are veterans, who are first responders. We have, if you scroll down in the app, we have a whole category that is always unlocked, always free for all first responders or anyone going through a crisis. So the best thing to do is to download the Tapping Solution app, and you can keep in touch with me at Jessica Ortner on Instagram or at the Tapping Solution. And the daily guidance card is out now on Amazon. I've never been prouder. It's gorgeous. It makes a great gift. I mean, what's so funny, Michelle, is I never liked, and I don't want to feel like I'm selling. I've never liked it, but when you love something so much, you're like, guys, trust me,
You have
you
to get it.
will love this. You will love this. So this card deck is already out. And then just stay in touch with me on Instagram, or like sign up for our newsletter, because the kids card deck I am like working with Amazon at the moment. I'm hoping to have it up by like December 15th to get it before Christmas. But if not, it will be afterwards. It's a whole world, new world when you're creating these things yourself. But yeah, I'm hoping that it will definitely be out early next year, if not before.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to put my energy that it is out before. And my daughter works for Amazon, so I'm going to say, "Look, Madison, look,
Oh,
let's pull some
listen,
strings here."
let's talk.
But you know what I'm saying? I'll still say it to her anyway. Why would I not put that pressure on her? And then, if it causes her stress, she can tap on it. So it all works
Yes.
out. So there we are. Okay, before I ask you my last and final question, is there anything that we didn't
Yes.
talk about or cover or whatever that you feel is important that, like, I don't want to hang up and then or end this call and then you're saying, oh, I sure wish we would have talked about this, or I had a chance to cover this, or anything. I just don't want to leave anything on the table. It's a super important time of year for people. I think this is an invaluable tool. You're an invaluable resource. So if there's anything that we didn't talk about, now's the chance.
I would love to pick a card
Pick
for
a
the
card.
audience and just do one round of tapping.
Oh my
So
goodness. See, I wasn't even going to put you
I
on the spot and make you work. Okay.
all
I
right.
would love it.
Look, this is the card I picked at random. I release any guilt and acknowledge my growth. So this is the image for those who are watching the video. And I'm gonna turn it over. And if you are watching this, I'll also say where to tap. You can find free how to tap videos on our YouTube at the Tapping Solution channel, but just tap on the side of the hand underneath your pinky. And Michelle, if you could repeat after me, and those who are listening, repeat after me, either in your mind or out loud. Even though I've made mistakes,
Even though I've made mistakes,
I choose to forgive myself now.
I choose to forgive myself now.
Eyebrow point, where the hair of your eyebrow begins. I let go of the guilt.
I let go of the guilt
Side of the eye, and hold on to the lessons.
and hold on to the lessons.
Under the eye, my past does not define me.
My past does not define me.
Under the nose, each day I become a better version of myself.
Each day I become a better version of myself.
Under the mouth, I am growing stronger and wiser.
I am growing stronger and wiser.
Collarbone, I celebrate how far I've come.
I celebrate how far I've come.
Under the arm, I release any guilt.
I release any guilt
Top of the head, and acknowledge my growth.
and acknowledge my growth.
And take a nice deep breath in. That card seemed to be on theme for the call.
No mistakes. And if you enjoyed that, episode 33 with Jessica, we were doing a little love series because it was around Valentine's Day. You should check out her one on love. which is what you walked us through last time, when maybe love isn't showing up in the right timing, or we're really looking for it and it seems to be at bay. You are a true gift. I am thrilled to have you here again. I know you're going to come back next year because we already talked about that. So that's all
Yeah.
that. That's just already set. I wrote this down. You can't read it, but I end the show the same way with every single person asking the same question. I went back before this recording started and listened to what you said last time to see,
Ooh.
to compare it to what you're going to say
Okay.
this time. So here we go.
Okay.
Jessica Ortner, what is one thing you absolutely believe to be true?
Trust life. I believe that life has a way of unfolding that's greater than what we can imagine. And so, in moments when we're struggling, it's important to look back in our life and notice the times when things did work out and how we found our way, and trust that any rejection is just a redirection to something better.
Well, dare I say that it is virtually the same thing 10 years later. Would you like me to tell you what you said?
Yes.
That we are being taken care of by something greater than ourselves.
Wow, yeah.
Same.
I believe it.
You clearly do. 10 years, nothing has changed. So that's when you know somebody believes what they believe without even being prompted to go back and listen. So that is phenomenal. I appreciate you. Your energy, your joy, your enthusiasm, your awe is contagious. It's through these cards, it's through everything you write about. Please follow her on social media because you do post regularly and it is all helpful. It's all kinds of different tapping. And in the moments when you feel like I'm at my wit's end, boom, go on Instagram and there's Jessica right there to catch you, to know that you're not in this alone. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your time
Oh,
today and for sharing your wisdom and your awe and your joy with my audience. I appreciate you.
thank you, Michelle. I appreciate you.
Beautiful. Well, I will look forward to seeing you again. And for everybody here listening or watching, thank you so much for being here on this episode of the Game Changer Podcast.